The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Chronology, though it makes dull conversation at feasts, is a lantern in caverns such as these. Fix first upon the year of sundered webs, -339 DR, when the Faerûm's vile life drain unpicked the stitches of Netheryl's sorceries. The sorcerer king Ulaum, who had kept death waiting by means of a singular stratagem, his famed longevity, felt that cunning charm begin to fray. He vanished from the high cities and descended into the North Dark, where the living seldom keep calendars. There, away from his peers' alarms and the Faerûm's parasitic triumph, Ulaum embraced lichdom and shaped himself a lair. He did not go alone into that deep. From the nearby Mindflayer city of Elintal, he had already recruited a cadre of students, illithid minds whose discipline and ambition matched his own. These pupils named themselves Alhoon, a title that at first meant little more than a fellowship, and, in time, would name an entire condition, the Lich. Mindflayers that pursue arcane magic are exiled as deviants, and for them, no everlasting communion with an elder brain is possible. The road to lichdom offers an alternative way to escape the permanency of death, but that path is long and fraught with barriers. Alhoons are mindflayers who have used a shortcut to attain a lich-like state. Elder brains forbid mindflayers from pursuing magic power aside from psionics, but it isn't an interdiction they must often enforce. Illithids brook no masters but members of their own kind, so it isn't in their nature to bow to any god or other worldly patron. However, wizardry remains a temptation. In the pages of a spellbook, an illithid sees a system to acquire authority. Through the writings of the wizard who penned it, the illithid perceives the workings of a highly intelligent mind. Most mind flayers who find a spellbook react with abhorrence or indifference, but for some, a spellbook is a gateway to a new way of thinking. For a time, the study of such forbidden texts can be hidden from other illithids and even from an elder brain. Yet eventually, Mindflayer arcanists determined to pursue wizardry must flee the colony for their own safety. Once they taste freedom from the colony, some prize their privacy, others seek to commune with similar minds, and still others seek to dominate a colony by elevating themselves to the position of leadership normally held by an elder brain. Regardless, all such arcanists face the same stark fact. When they die, they will not join the web of minds in the elder brain. Deviant minds are never accepted as part of the collective. For them, death means oblivion. Lichdom offers salvation and the prospect of being able to pursue knowledge indefinitely. Yet learning the secret of achieving lichdom requires an arcane spellcaster to be at the apex of power. A significant challenge for mindflayers, given the scarcity of available mentors and training. Confronting this reality, a group of 9 Mindflayer arcanists used their arcane magic and psionics to weave a new truth. These 9 called themselves the Alhoon, and those who follow in their footsteps are referred to by the same name. To become Alhoons, Mindflayer arcanists must cooperate in the creation of a periapts of mind trapping, a fist-sized container made of silver, emerald, and amethyst. The process requires at least 3 Mindflayer arcanists and the sacrifice of an equal number of souls from living victims in a 3-day-long act of spellcasting and psionic communion. Upon its completion, free-willed undeath is conferred on the Mindflayers, turning them into Alhoons. Initially, an Alhoon can be difficult to distinguish from a normal Mindflayer. The most obvious difference is the lack of a Mindflayer's ever-present mucus coating. Without that protection, their skin becomes dry and cracked, and the eyes might appear shriveled and sunken. Both of these clues are easily missed by someone who hasn't seen a Mindflayer. However, in short order, an Alhoon's flesh withers away and its empty eye sockets gleam with cold pinpricks of light like those of other liches. Although they resemble living Mindflayers, they are mauve-skinned beings whose heads have 4 mouth tentacles and look like octopi. They stand upright, with a human-like frame and limbs, though their hands only have 3 fingers each. The Alhoon hate bright light, but are not harmed by it. They do not need to eat, drink, or even breathe, and only the greatest extremes of heat and cold, such as those found in magical spells, harm them. They do, however, seem to enjoy devouring slugs, worms, especially glowworms, and leeches, regarding these as delicacies. The bodies of Alhoon adapt poorly to lichny state. Many magical lichdom processes used by humans fail on a strongly magic-resistant Mindflayer body, so Alhoon are plagued by ongoing skin wrinkling and tissue desiccation. They counteract this by bathing and by drinking all sorts of liquids. Nutrients need not be ingested, and poisons absorbed this way harm a Mindflayer. Unlike a true Lich's phylactery, the periapts of mind trapping doesn't restore the Alhoons to undeath if they are destroyed. Instead, a destroyed Alhoon's mind is transferred to the periapt, where it remains in communion with any other trapped Alhoon minds, as well as the souls of those sacrificed. The undeath conferred by a periapt of mind trapping lasts only so long as the life of the living victim selected. Thus, an Alhoon who sacrificed a 200-year-old elf looks forward to a much longer existence than one that sacrificed a 35-year-old person. Alhoons can extend their existence by repeating the ritual with new victims, effectively resetting the clocks for themselves. Destroying a periapt of mind trapping consigns those trapped within it to oblivion, and thus Alhoons often work together to create elaborate protections for their periapts and their preferred ritual sites. Sometimes a single Alhoon is entrusted with the periapts of mind trapping, but this is a dangerous proposition. Mark well, gentle traveller, of the many scandals to waft up from the realms below, none smells quite so briny and bookish as the birth of the Alhoon. It is I, Volothamp Geddarm, here to announce my new manuscript, a modicum of fact and truth for any would-be reader. Volo's Guide to the Mindflayer, this evening focusing on none other than the Arcane Masters, the Alhoon. Chapter 1, Creation. The tale begins in the long shadow after Netheral's fall. In that ruin's hush, the arch-wizard Iulam moved as quietly as a cleric in a cathedral, gathering pupils from among the brightest of the shattered enclaves. Yet, and here is where the tale takes a turn that would curdle a priest, he also extended his hand to minds from the Illithid city of Ellental. Those Mindflayer pupils named themselves Alhoon, and the word has since come to mean more than a mere cabal. It is the seed of a new and dreadful estate. Iulam's purpose, once hidden, revealed itself with a flourish. From the aggregated intellects of his Illithid students, he fashioned an undead elder brain, then folded his own prodigious sentience into that briny throne. Such sorcery is not performed with candles and kind wishes. The rite destroyed most of the Illithilich apprentices, yet several slipped its ruin, bearing away the method of their making and the secrets of the Alhoon. Thus did the secret of Illithilich creation pass, whisper by whisper, through Mindflayer circles from skull-lined tunnels to drowned vaults and beyond. Here ends any likeness to true lichdom. A lich betroths itself to its phylactery and returns so long as that covenant endures. An Alhoon binds its mind to the periapt and returns to a communion of Mindflayers, stored within the periapt. Break the body, and the intellect flees the ruptured flesh, pouring into the vessel where other trapped Alhoon thoughts already circle like lanternfish in black water. There, too, linger the souls that purchase the rite, a chorus of unwilling witnesses whose number and nature stain the collective forever. leave such a vessel intact. And you do not merely spare a single enemy, you preserve a council, accumulating patience and knowledge with each defeat. Shatter it, and you unmake an echo that might otherwise advise its future selves. Thus is the Alhoon, a scholar who has walled off his thoughts from the elder brain's communal stew, an exile who has chosen the bitter privilege of solitary eternity over the soft oblivion of the brine. And if you must parley, keep your words few and your will fewer. They are courteous eaters of both. Chapter 2. Arcane Attunement and Society. Permit me, dear reader, a brief description on temptation. Elder brains forbid their flock from dabbling in any art save the silent from that is psionics, and, truth be told, they rarely need crack the whip. Illithids brook no master but their own kind. They neither bend knee to God, nor bargain with distant patrons, finding both habits beneath a society who can pluck obedience straight from another's skull. And yet, amid this tidy tyranny of thought, the old allure of wizardry persists like a candle's light protruding the shadows in a sealed room. Most flayers pass a spellbook as a non-chess player passes a chessboard, without interest and faintly insulted by the presumption that they would dabble in the game. A few, however, pause. They see a scaffold by which a new way of thought may be assembled, line by patient line. The first encounter is often accidental. A looted tower, a sodden chest, a survivor's satchel abandoned in a tunnel. Within, the ink smells of oil and iron gall. The script angles like a staircase within the infinite staircase, and the margins speak to the writer's mind, methodical, proud, fallible. For a Mindflayer, whose culture values the seamless chorus of the elder brain, such private architecture is both a dastardly scandal and perhaps a siren song. Study begins as a concealed indiscretion, masked from comrades and, so they flatter themselves, even from the great mind in the brine. Wizardry's understanding slips the grasp like a live fish, until one black hour it holds still, and the arcanist, no longer merely curious, must name himself deviant, or die for the attempt. They often have a plan of escape ready, for this end result is well known. What follows depends upon temperament and the geography the Mindflayer finds themselves in. Some of these runaways prize solitude as noble's prize coin, vanishing into vaults where their thoughts have room to echo. Others, contrary creatures, seek out kindred deviants and form whisper coteries in defiance of the brine. A bolder sort returns at the head of enthralled servants to seize a colony outright, proclaiming itself conductor in place of the elder brain, a coup that rarely ends with a continued applause. I must state, I do not know of any Mindflayer that enjoys a chuckle. If there are, point your fellow traveller in that direction. I would gladly document it for posterity's sake. Whatever road they take, all confront the same end understanding. The elder brain will not receive them. A deviant mind is cut from the chorus. When such a flayer dies, there is no warm dissolution into the communal sea, only the cold edge of oblivion. A brief aside from one Volo, many Mindflayers are unaware that in their death, their mind, consciousness and soul joins the elder brain, and their personality eviscerated for forever time. I would assume, or more accurately hypothesize, that many of the new Alhoon of their species have came to the consensus that this is in fact true, giving further credence to their now dissolution from their previous family of Mindflayer kin. Thus is planted the thought that flowers into horror. If the chorus will not have me, I shall outlast the chorus. Lichdom, that most patient of salvations, beckons. A Mindflayer that gorged on brains in life finds little scruple in feeding souls to a phylactery. Yet the ladder of lichdom is steep, and wizardry demands a summit few arcanists can reach. The restlessness of these outcasts reshapes more than their own fates. On the surface, where fear makes cowards of many a scribe, The would-be masters commonly seize remote towers, dispatching their resident wizards with haste. I have marked such usurpations spreading like fungus across the Dale lands, where a lonely spire is liable to wake one morning with a new librarian and fewer books than before. From these eyries and Alhoon, yes, let us name them for what they have become or mean to become, will leash any suitable creature and, in chilling hypocrisy, even collar living mind flayers as thought slaves. They parley when profit of knowledge smiles and keep terms so long as the result is an advantage of their own ambitions. Scriptures on new spells, magical items that advance the 8 schools, protection staves, wizard staffs, all are beneficial and accepted for the Alhoon. Inwardly, they measure all neighbours as cattle. As rivals, they number chiefly true liches and beholders, the first from envy, the other from fear or frustration of incompatible tyrannies. Meetings between such are best observed from a safe remove, preferably another city or plain, as their spells often destroy vast landscapes in their attempts to gain further arcane mastery, usually focusing on the evocation or enchantment schools. If wizardry is a gate, then the spellbook is its keyhole. Through it, an illithid, or now Alhoon, glimpses the interior of a keen and solitary mind and recognizes, with reluctant kinship, the pleasure of a thought that is one's own. In time, secrecy fails. The elder brain notices gaps where obedience once lay smooth. Colleagues smell novelty as sharks smell blood. The deviant flees if they would live, and by flight admits what the colony would have pronounced, that he has chosen the self over the song of the colony. At last, we come to the hinge of this history. 9 such deviants, names lost or prudently erased, convened in hidden dark and braided together what their separate arts could not secure. Taking both arcane thread and psionic weft, they wove a new truth, a right by which free-willed undeath might be won without the lonely pinnacle lichdom demands. They named themselves Alhoon, and ever after the word has served for any who tread their path, whether they complete the passage or merely map its edges with blood and ink. So stands the society of the self-saved, scattered towers and drowned libraries, small courts of cowed servitors, treaties written in other people's hands. They spurn the brine, yet cannot wholly forsake the habits it taught, command over undeath, economy of magical trinkets for their own advancement, and patience, for their designs now stretch further than any of regular Mindflayer ilk. And if you would live to read Chapter 3, memorize this. In every compact with an Alhoon, the final clause is invisible, and it always favours the oldest mind at the table. And remember, dearest reader, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest.